This is Audible.
The Syndicate Audio House presents The Faith Sells Speech, Fighting and Finishing with Faith by Derrick Lattimore. This edition to my non-fictional shorts is dedicated to my dad, Dexter Lattimore, who taught me that in business you have to fight and finish with faith. For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. 2 Timothy 4:6-8. Preface. I would like to start off by apologizing. If I was a well-known author, you would probably see this book on the shelves in your nearest bookstore. But because I'm considered an unknown author, meaning that I don't have a great following, I don't have a literary agent, I don't have a publisher, and I don't have an editor. So why am I writing? I don't really have much of a good answer other than I feel called to do so. So why am I apologizing, you ask? Because you might want a well-edited book with perfect grammar, concise sentences with an ease of reading comprehension. I'm sorry, that's not what's going to happen all the time in this book. I'm actually excited about this though, because I don't have the restrictions of being perfect literary-wise. I'll get to express to you much of what I want to say in an informal tone. What you'll get out of this book is more of a conversation between friends than a literary work of greatness. What you'll basically get is a conceptual work of greatness. And what I mean by a conceptual work of greatness is simple. This book is mainly about me sharing intriguing concepts with a spiritual connotation. I want to share with you my ideas about faith, fighting, and finishing. And I gave it in my faith sales speech that I gave to a real estate office in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm presenting it to you today. I hope that you'll enjoy this read, this informal read, a little better. I think that's what made the letters of Apostle Paul so interesting to read. They weren't meant to be best-selling parchments circulating the country and spending 52 weeks on the New York Times the New Roman Times bestsellers list. No, not at all. Paul's letters were intimate conversations housed in letter form. They were conceptual ideas from an inspiring idealist written to a reader hoping for spiritual enlightenment. Once again, I apologize to the intellectuals out there who care about grammar and its usage. You will undoubtedly get some euphemisms, maybe some slang, some shorthand, and what we call texting language today, like laugh out loud or whatever the case. In this audiobook, you won't get any of that. But if you download the digital copy, you'll get it. But guess what? I've been down the road of creating perfect literary works. One of my books called God as a Real Estate Agent. It's not about selling it, it's about faith. That book is pretty much, I spent time on that book. It took me almost 2 years to write that book. And I've dealt with the literary restrictions and the grammar restrictions. And trust me, the way our world is headed, it's not as important as it used to be. Not only that, but I really want these books to have an informal feel in the way they read. I want you to read this and imagine that I'm actually talking to you, because after all, this is a conversation we're having. If you're reading this book with a Christian background, I have to apologize once again. Some of the things and word choices I'm about to share with the readers will seem odd or strange, but I promise I will contextualize everything within the framework of the Word of God so that your spirit will get fed alongside those who don't know Christ as well as you do. Some of my readers will have an atheistic or Islamic or Jewish or Buddhist or even a scientific background. I will try to minister to all of you all at the same time as God gives me the wisdom to do so. Not that I'm so great. But this is the reason for my preface. I need to set the tone for the scholar and the average Joe alike. The last thing I want to cover before I begin is the matter of my credentials. Usually the writer of a nonfiction literary work has need of certain credentials to gain the trust of their audience. I hope my credentials are suitable for your consideration. Credential number 1, salvation credentials. First and foremost, I am saved and I have accepted Jesus as my Lord and personal Savior since the age of 13. I am Holy Ghost filled. I proclaim that since the age of 21. And I fully believe that Jesus Christ is the only way to salvation. November 2006 was the date I was reborn in Christ. And I also believe in the doctrines of baptism and speaking in tongues, and also the resurrection of the dead. Credential number 2, educational credentials. I indeed have my high school diploma. I graduated from Ben L. Smith High School located in Greensboro, North Carolina. I spent 4 years at A&T, in North Carolina, A&T State University as a nursing major, and I also minored in business administration. I spent 3 years at New Life Theological Seminary and majored in church planting and urban ministries. Credential number 3, other credentials or other education. I received my real estate license in July the 25th, 2013 in the state of North Carolina. And I currently read an average of 100 books, nonfiction books a year. Books in religion and business and self-help and personal growth are my favorites to read. I don't like to spend my time in the fantasy books and all that. I feel like I'm wasting my time. Not to say that they're a waste of time. That's just the way I'm wired. You can visit my blog at dougderrick.com to view what I've read and what I'm reading now. And that's Doug Derrick, DougDerrick.com. Credential number 4, ministerial credentials. I began preaching at the age of 13. I was licensed as a minister at the age of 23. I was ordained an elder in 2011. But I was consecrated as an elder by my current church Reformation on August 15, 2013. At the time of writing this book, I am currently 32 years old. Credential number 5, literary credentials. I wrote my first book, The 7 Laws of Spiritual Greatness. You can check that out over at Amazon. The 7 Laws of Spiritual Greatness. I wrote that at the age of 26. I wrote my second book at the age of 28 entitled God is a Real Estate Agent. It's not about selling, it's about faith, which the reason why this speech that you're listening to today was created was because it was a spinoff of that book. And it was a speech that I gave in Charlotte, North Carolina at a real estate seminar. And I'm making it into a mini non-fictional short for you today. And this happens actually, this book, God is a Real Estate Agent. It's not about selling, it's about faith. It happens to be the first real estate agent devotional ever created. And it does very well. I mean, it sells. I mean, I don't even have to market it anymore. It just sells. It's sold in Canada and Malaysia and India. And it's an international seller. Credential number 6, marital credentials. I was married to my wife, my beautiful wife, in January 2008 at the age of 23. We do share 7 children. Yes, we do. We are happily married and have been laughing and loving this whole time. And if you're reading this book, my love, or if you are listening to this book, my love, I just want you to know you are my comfort. You are my confidence. You are all of what I care about. All right, that's enough of the mushy stuff. Because of my prior education in nursing and business and real estate and theology, my ideas come from a different perspective and are not bound by the dogmatic frame of thought that many religious figures have. My goal is to teach you from my knowledge and experiences things that may interest and edify you. The only way I know how to be truly effective is for me to be myself. I consider me being the best version of myself when I can be informal, not formal, not rigid, not regimented, but informal, and not concerned with thinking about grammar and punctuation and all the literary trappings that go along with writing a book. Now listen, especially in this audiobook, because in this audiobook, I'm going to say things and stumble over my words and all that. And listen, I've been listening to some of these audiobooks that they have out there. And this is going to be pretty good compared to them. So just stay with me. Also, I'm basically having a conversation with myself. You see, I read a lot. And because all of my efforts in gaining knowledge, I have a lot of ideas rolling around in my brain. The problem is that my children are tired of me teaching them stuff. And my wife thinks I talk too much. Unfortunately, nobody else I know has an interest in the ideas and concepts the way I have. Therefore, I have no one to talk to about these things. So, unlucky you, you're going to listen to me rant and rave about my ideas. So the next step for a person like me is to write a book to explain these concepts to people who may be attracted to the title, at least the title. You know, because basically it's really the title that really sells. All the other stuff. And that's, you know what? That's why I write these non-fictional shorts, because you get into these books and they're so long and they're just full of so much fluff that you spent $15 for a book. You want to get all the goodness of the book. But in order to justify spending $15 for a book, they got to flesh it out. And we're coming to the age of Twitter and Instagram and 140 characters. We don't want to spend a lot of time wasting time listening to fluff. We want it all right here, right now. We want it. This is why I call non-fictional shorts, because, hey, you know, you get what you need in a short amount of time, and you don't have to spend all of your life energies listening to fluff, trying to justify a $15 book. And that's why I like audiobooks, because I just can just go off the script and you got to deal with it. No. All right. As of right now, I don't have a following, haven't been recognized for some great accomplishment. So until people stumble upon my books on the internet, I'm basically writing to myself. This is me having a conversation with myself about myself for myself. Sounds lonely, right? Wrong. It's actually becoming a hobby, a habit, and my attempt to put my fingerprint in the sands of history. I have a purpose in this life, and I know this is a part of my destiny. Like a baby turtle instinctively headed for the water, my instincts are calling me to the literary waters of edification for your sakes. Last but not least, I do actually have someone else in mind as I write this book. But alas, again, it's really self-motivated. You see, some of these truths I'm about to share with you didn't come from my mother or my father or my pastor or my mentor. I had to read a lot to get my thirst for knowledge quenched. I wish my dad or mom taught me these things as I was coming up. But some of us grew up with parents who are not necessarily great at teaching. And sometimes we learn more from what they did and their mistakes than what they orally tried to impart. I, however, found my solace in books. And they taught me what I was lacking. Mixing my life experiences with the knowledge gained by reading the thoughts of wiser men, I too began to grow more and more knowledgeable and wiser. I imagine that I share this testimony with King Solomon. If you remember, King Solomon set his heart to know wisdom, and we can assume from his text in the book of Ecclesiastes that he was also well read. There's a wisdom that enlightens the mind when the knowledge of the past, read in a book, is mixed with the fluidity of the present, unfolding timeless truths, which begs a reckoning for the conclusion of the whole matter. As I said before, I do have someone in mind as I write, but technically, in my mind, I am not writing to you per se. I'm actually writing to the me in you. It was the me in you that attracted you to this book. Let me put it in a different way. There's an imaginary me within the subconscious of you that has a need for this knowledge. It's to that little boy, that little boy that didn't have good teachers that I'm writing to. It's to that scared little kid, that me who was labeled slow in school, that I'm writing to. It's to that little kid smoking weed with drug dealers on the streets of Cincinnati, Ohio, that I'm actually writing to. It's to that stupid little boy who hated to read because it was too hard. That's who I'm writing to. It's to that hurting husband, that failing father, that religious fanatic, that uneducated business owner, and to the ignorant and struggling soul that was never taught the whys of wisdom and the how-tos of understanding is who I'm actually writing to. It's me in you. And if you have that same testimony, that testimony is what's drawing you to this book. And that is where me and you connect, because I see me in your testimony. And that's why I wrote this, so that the me in you can be fed. I always needed someone to take interest in my potential. I always needed that. I needed somebody to take me under their wing and to help me make sense of it all. In this book, that's my personal mission for you. And because I know there's a piece of me in you, I know you're full of potential and brimming with promise. And I want to take you under my wing with all of what I have read and all of what I have invested in to know. I want to impart that in you today. We will probably never meet, but we're connected by the spirit of wanting to know and understand in preparation for achieving something great. I want to share with you my most intimate thoughts, my most vulnerable experiences, my most transparent moments, and my most inner secrets to hopefully give you the aha moments you'll need in order to navigate through this life more easily. Remember, this is not a literary work. This is a conceptual work. I want to enlighten you with thoughts and concepts worthy of your time, with cross-references from scriptures and business acumen and real estate practice and nursing studies and theological training. I'm so glad you've decided to take this journey with me. And I'm excited to share all of what I have learned from hundreds and hundreds of books. I have a favor to ask, though. This is my favor, but only if you've enjoyed reading this book or listening to the audio. Please go on Amazon. Just write me a 5-star review. If you received this book for free, because I'm giving these books for free somewhere, please write me a 5-star review. I really appreciate it. Sincerely, yours truly, Douglas Derrick Lattimore. Finally, the faith speech. Faith sales. Now, I wrote the book, God is a Real Estate Agent, and it did well. It did very well for me. So as I was promoting the book, I was propositioned by a real estate agent who owned her own facilities in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she wanted me to come out and speak to her agents. And this is what I said to them. And so this is just a speech. It's not a big to do. It's just a speech about faith and how it's used in business. And if you pay attention to the underlying truths in this book, I think it'd be well worth the read. So here's the faith sales speech. Enjoy. This is an extraordinary honor for me. I spent most of my time reading, writing, and studying the concepts of business, particularly real estate, and in personal growth. I stand here before you today humbled by the opportunity to share all of what I've learned over the last 2 years, including a knowledge base of over 200 books read together with the most recently released literary works in business and in personal growth. And I would like to consolidate all of what I've learned for you today in a short phrase. And that phrase is simply faith sells. From Napoleon Hill to Gary Vaynerchuk, faith sales is the most prominent and resounding theme within every noteworthy literary work to date in our industry. This concept isn't necessarily new, but faith, in my opinion, as a notion is most commonly misconceived. I believe this because having faith was a hard knock lesson that life and experience had to teach me. I not only had to learn this concept through reading a ton of books on the topic, but I've also seen the concept work behind the scenes, not only in my life, but also in the lives of others around me. I was born in a small town called Portsmouth, Ohio, located in Scioto County. As far as my memory can take me, I was cared for by my grandmother, Derrick Lattimore. One day, my grandmother took me to a church conference in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's where, in my recollection, in my mind, that's where I met my mother for the first time. You see, my mother didn't have custody of my brother and I didn't know that in that moment, the joy of meeting my mother for the first time would also accompany the pain of simultaneously losing my grandmother. You see, my brother and I were kidnapped. The next morning, my mother had my brother and I on a 24-hour long Greyhound ride to Pompano Beach, Florida. And from the outside looking in, this situation doesn't sound all that bad. However, my mother and her boyfriend had a little drug problem, and my childhood was riddled with the issues kids deal with when their parents are on drugs. It wasn't until I was able to move with my dad 12 years later that I was able to understand that there was a whole new world outside of the poverty that I was accustomed to, and of which the newly discovered affluence I absolutely knew nothing about. My father was always a businessman, but his greatest triumph to date was when he opened a home health care franchise called Comfort Care Senior Services. Within the first 5 years of him opening up the business, he was grossing close to $670,000 a month. And when I asked him how he did it, he told me, I worked and believed in the success of my business with every fiber of my being. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about fighting, finishing with faith. And even though I didn't completely understand what he exactly meant when he said it, I now comprehend the essence of his wisdom, which again boils down to faith sells. Faith sells. And if you're not making $600,000 a month, I would like to break it down for you so you can get faith to sell too. See, I wouldn't be authentic if I didn't pull a reference from my favorite book, which is called the Bible. And this is what the Bible says about faith. Hebrews 11:1 states, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's what theologians like to call a pregnant statement, because something is alive in that sentence, and that something wants to be born in you today. This year has been one of the hardest years I've ever faced in the whole earth. It was the year I had to homeschool my 2 daughters. As I was completing my book entitled God is a Real Estate Agent, it's not about selling, it's about faith, I realized that even though I was successfully finishing my book, I was privately failing my family. My daughters, who are currently in high school now, were sashaying their way through grade school every year. Yet they didn't understand like fundamental math and reading concepts like borrowing and decimals and fractions and how to properly build sentences. And they were in like the 7th grade not knowing how to do this. They were technically in the 6th and 7th grade on a 3rd and 4th grade level. And because Gauss's law tells us that complicated things evolve from that which is simple, I knew that if I didn't pull them out of the broken education system now and educate them myself, they would become another statistic of what happens to young girls who devalue the privilege of education and substitute it for overvaluing the attention they get from boys and drama and being popular. One day, I was teaching them in the homeschool, and I had a bright idea of finding one of the most popular teaching tools every child had to basically endure in the 90s. And it was a PBS show called Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill would take complicated materials such as the law of thermodynamics and simplify it for young minds to get an understanding. This day, Bill was talking about energy. Bill said that energy is the substance by which all animation is possible. Then he began to explain the different forms of energy, including potential energy, which is an inactive or dormant energy, and kinetic energy, which is an active or mobile energy. And this is where I had my eureka moment. You see, at this point in my reading regimen, I was reading a book by Bob Proctor called Born Rich. Absolutely loved the book. In his book, Bob was expounding upon some concepts of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And Bob and Napoleon believed that positive thoughts should be considered as energy because thought by itself is a substance by which all animation in the body is possible. So if thought is a substance that can make things move and energy is a substance that can make things move, then they believe that thought is indeed a form of energy. Knowing this, I realized in business, what separates the mediocre producers from the unsuccessful is the amount of time it takes for people to transition from thinking potential energy to actually doing, which is kinetic. When potential energy has reached its capacity, its maximum capacity, and at the right moment and in the right environment, it'll get kinetic. It'll get mobile. It's like a balloon being filled with water. When the water takes the balloon to its maximum capacity, the balloon will bust and move. And when real estate agents or any business person, when their motivations are filled to the maximum capacity, they'll turn and bust a move. And that's probably one of the biggest obstacles a leader has in regard to getting their disciples to actually do what they're telling them to do. Because making money by itself, although important, isn't filling everyone with enough motivation to get kinetic. That's just a little food for thought. In comparison, what separates the top producers from the mediocre producers is the quality or the strength of their thinking. Not versus the competition. Competition doesn't matter. But in contrast to how strong their thinking is today in relation to how strong their thinking was yesterday. Like in golf, golfers don't actually play against other golfers. They play against themselves. So the question is multifaceted. Here's the question. When your faith energy does get kinetic, how durable is it? Does it burn like gas or does it burn like diesel? Does it burn fast or does it burn slow? Are you excited and then you wane in excitement, or are you constant? Also, do you have enough faith energy? Faith is a thought, believing in something. Energy is what thoughts are. Do you have enough faith energy to make it to your destination? That last part is what most business people get in trouble with, because most business people, they don't have enough faith energy to get them to where they want to go. Simply put, Jesus always said things like this: "O ye of little faith." Basically, all he was saying is, "O ye of little energy." He was telling the crowds that follow him, you want to get to the destination of this healing, but your gaslight is on. They had it all wrong. They wanted to see the miracle on the outside before they saw the miracle on the inside. And Jesus tried to show us through them that most people don't have the durable energy needed to witness the miracle of turning nothing into something. And when you start a business, that's exactly what you're doing. You're turning nothing into something. That's why 50% of all of the businesses fail within the first year, because it took them only 1 year to run out of faith energy or energy. or the thought of believing that it was going to work. That's why 95% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years, because they only have 5 years of energy in their tank before they ran out. And when you set your heart on starting your own business, the one thing you need to consider is, do I have enough energy to turn my nothing of a business into something more than a profit? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Do you have what it takes to turn the substance of an intangible energy called faith and turn it into the tangible realization called fact? Faith is the energy of your thoughts, and when activated, is the proof that whatever is real in your mind can be real in your life, even if, as of right now, nobody else can see it. Newsflash: sales is not the core of business, faith is. By faith, people enter into the real estate industry or to the business arena, and because of a lack of faith, people leave the industry. Today, I want to give you 3 keys to unlock unlimited faith. Out of all the books that I've read, I still think that the Bible says it the best. The book of Romans states, faith cometh by hearing. That means that faith as an entity isn't something that you either have or you don't have, as if you were born with it. It's not predicated on specific genome structures or being lucky in the DNA lottery pick. Faith cometh by hearing, meaning that faith is by nature external and can be absorbed through an internal process. I've found that there are 3 keys to faith that must be understood in order for you to wield it. I call them the 3 E's of faith, and we've already discussed 2 of them. Now, here in this audiobook, I want to take time out. I could do this in an audiobook. I want to take time out to accentuate the importance of reading, because faith cometh by hearing. You can get motivated by reading. And when you read, that external thoughts that come from somebody else will be internalized in your brain. It's almost like reading is almost like filling up at a gas station. When you read motivational books and self-help books and all these different type of books to help educate you and get you motivated, it's increasing your faith. And that's why people go to church every week. It's because by the time it's time for church, they might be running low on faith, on positivity. And so they need the faith of the preacher to come across the pulpit, enter into their brains so they can get refueled for the week. Now, let's go back to the 3 E's of faith. And we've already discussed 2 of them. The first E is for energy. Faith is energy. You got to believe that. Faith is energy. It is the invisible that makes the visible. And that's what energy is. Energy is nothing but the invisible that has made us see the visible. And that's what faith is. It's thought. It's the thought of believing. And because that's invisible to us, we can equate that to energy. So faith is energy. The second E is for evolving. Faith has the ability to move and grow. And we talked about that. The third E is for employable, meaning that faith is not only attained or attainable, but it's also usable. It's employable. You can employ it. So how does that work? Well, faith or positive thought is essentially the main ingredient of alchemy. And alchemy was based on a supposed transformation of matter from one form to another, particularly the attempts to convert like base metals into gold. In medieval times, alchemists were charlatans, boasting the discovery of magical elixirs and such. But just because chemistry has proven alchemy in that sense to be a pipe dream doesn't necessarily make the concept of alchemy irrelevant. If faith is energy, and energy by definition is what scientists call matter, anytime a person turns an idea into money, they have truly performed alchemy in a metaphysical way. By turning one form of matter, ideas, into another form of matter, which is money. And if that's true, then I am indeed looking at a room full of alchemists, or speaking to, in this audiobook, a slew full of alchemists, because you can use your faith energy and turn that into actual tangible money. We all have thoughts, and they come a dime a dozen. So the question remains, how do we fortify our thoughts to support sustainable growth in business? First, it starts with being honest and authentic. Is what you're doing now aligning with your character and who you are as a person? Because time will tell you and the rest of the world just how durable your faith energy is, and whether or not you have enough of it to get you to where you need to go. The durability of your faith energy is something you should recognize as your passion. See, passion isn't what lights your fire. Infatuation can light a fire. Passion is what keeps the fire going. When you're being honest with yourself and you realize your passion, you'll be able to save on the resource that's more valuable than even your faith energy. And that resource is called time. Because you're not getting any more of that, buddy. Secondly, discover a concept that has psychologists all in the uproar and the rage. This concept is called grit. Dr. Angela Duckworth, in her book entitled Grit, explains grit as a place where passion meets perseverance. Go read that book. It's a good book. For those of you who haven't read it, though, let me summarize it in an acronym of my own creating. GRIT. G-R-I-T. G, gain. R, repeat. I, implement. T, today. Grit. Gain, repeat, implement today. Whatever thought you have that can move passionately enough through your mind and energize you to gain, repeat, implement today, every day, is the same thought that can effectively give your business the sustainability it needs for growth. This single action embodies the very same advice I received from my dad those many years ago: to work and believe in the success of your business with every fiber of your being. This concept is so simple yet so powerful. Grit is the building block of all habit formation. And when you form a habit, you can set it and forget it. Habits are the inertia of thought and the GPS of life, because you will only go as far as your habits will take you. It's a good habit to be a continuous learner, and for you to ever be collecting new ideas to fuel your passion and increase your faith energy. However, there is more wisdom in you not only collecting ideas, but also collecting the right habits to support these ideas. I believe where there's a habit to be formed, there is faith to be found. Your business in real estate or other has certain habits you need to adopt in order for evolution to take place. Evolutionary theory is clear on this one point. You either adapt or you die. Your business philosophy must reflect the parallel, adapt or die. When you adapt the right habits, you demonstrate your faith. And that's why faith sells so well. So have faith, because faith without works is dead. Now that's it. That's the whole speech. And in this audiobook, I am done with this audiobook. But here's what I want to leave you with. Right now, I'm reading a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule, and it is a great read. Go get it, go buy it, go purchase it. But basically, if I were to summarize that book, all this stuff sounds well, but her book really takes care of the crux of the matter. And that crux is getting started. Because you've been sitting idle for so long, your potential energy is just sitting there, is dormant. And because it's dormant, the environment is not right for it to crest over into kinetic energy. And so with you reading this, I hope that it has given you some faith energy to fuel you up so that you can crest over and get some things done. But her 5-second rule really works. You've been sitting dormant for so long that it's almost like the old adage, a body at rest stays at rest. You're sitting dormant, and it's the inertia of you being dormant is pretty hard for you to get moving. That's why it's so hard for you to start exercising, because you haven't been exercising. But when you turn into a habit And when you get the ignition and you ignite and get the ball rolling, it's like a snowball effect. It starts off as a little bit, and then the habit takes care of the rest. In exercise, what I noticed in my exercise routine is that I will do one push-up. And if I feel like doing more, I will. But I know that I can do one. And if I just create the habit of just doing one push-up, guess what? I do that one push-up, and either the snowball effect is going to take hold, or, I just do the one push-up. I kept the habit alive in my mind, and I move on. It's the little steps, the little things that matter. So listen, if you're in a business and you're trying to get faith to sell, you need to adopt the habits of what business. You need to go and read some business books and find out the habits of the successful people in business, and just work on those, and just keep on reading, keep on imputing this faith energy into your mind, and get motivated, and just take little baby steps. Because I believe the old adage is the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Here's what I want to end with. You're going to need energy to cross that finish line and finish your fight. In business, you're going to need to sell in order to make your company successful. Here's the bottom line, though. Your faith is your energy to fight and to finish and to sell. I wrote this speech for business people, and nothing is more important in a business than selling. Selling is how a business fights and finishes. And all of that takes energy. The energy of thought, which is faith, the positive energy of thought, which is faith, is what you'll need to succeed. So go fuel up, read, journal, exercise, visualize, and pray to increase your positive thoughts and to fuel your faith energy. Because that's the only thing that's going to help you fight and finish and sell. Doubting is like putting sugar in your gas tank. It'll mess everything up. It'll mess up the vehicle of your prosperity. Use your faith to sell. Use your faith to fight. Use your faith to finish. Work your faith.
This is Audible.